Hi, I'm Kate. I'm going to be sharing with you today a curriculum called Spelling Power. If you haven't seen me before on my channel, I am a homeschool mom of 20 years. I have 5 kids, 4 graduated, 1 I still have at home. He's in high school, so I want to share with young moms that are starting out different curriculums. So today we're going to cover Spelling Power, which is something I've used for about 15 years with my different kids. It is great if you have multiples. This is the 4th edition. I want to say they're on the 5th edition right now. I had an older version that was just the book alone and it fell apart. So I had it in a 3-ring binder and it is actually hole punched. You can see down here. So it actually worked very well. Then I got this new version. It came with 2 CDs. One was the printables, the reproducibles that came with the original book that were just in the back to photocopy. It also comes with a quick start CD too. Okay, so they also sell these books alongside of them, which I used with my youngest. It is just a student record book that has a place for them to record the words, to write down the words they got wrong, and then to practice the words they got wrong. But we'll get into that in just a minute. So that's what comes with the curriculum. It's about, well, it says $65, but I think on Christian Book and on Rainbow Resource, it's about $40. You can also get used ones on eBay for a lot cheaper than that. Just make sure if it's one of the newer versions that it has the CD with it, or if it's the older version, it'll just have you can just print off the photocopy versions in the back. Okay, so this is how I used it in my homeschool. Not quite exactly like they explain it in the book, but this is what worked for us. So originally, my first 4 kids, they would just use composition books. I'd have them put a line down the middle, and they would do the words on one side, the incorrect ones on the other side, and then I had sheets of the 10-step process. This sheet, which is the practice, to practice why they got it wrong and to get it right. So I'll go through that in just a minute. But that is how I used it, just to save money. Composition books 50 cents. These are $5 each, and stuff adds up with 5 kids. You probably need about 2 of these per year per kid. They fill up pretty fast. So you know what? It's like I don't want to spend on the $50 on throwaway books. So you can either buy those composition books. So this first part of the book is how to use the curriculum, which is kind of overwhelming. And not many of us have time to read it. So I did eventually read the whole thing, but just go to the quick start pages and I'll give you the lowdown, or put in the DVD, it'll tell you. But basically there is a survey test that they want you to take to start with. And I'll show you a close-up version of this. Okay, so you'll have your kid just start recording these words. And when they get 3 wrong in a row, or they get 6 wrong total, just have them stop. And then depending on how many they got right, they then have them take a placement test. So say they got 17 right, you're going to go ahead and take placement test C. And when it comes to the placement test, they have to take the whole test and tell them, don't worry, don't cry, this is not a big deal. I just need to place you in the curriculum. So they see how many they get right. And depending on how many they get right, they then place them in a level. And that is the meat of the book, which is the very center of the book. This to this. This right here is the spelling lists. And these are the most frequently incorrectly spelled words in the English language. So I think it's about 5,000 words or something crazy. It is American, so there is like all the states and American spelling. If you're from England, like I am, they actually have a page in the back that tells you, oh, this is how the British spell these words. But you go to the level that they're supposed to be in. Say you're in level C and you're going to start level C. At the top of each group, they will have the either spelling rule or the phonetic rule for your kid to learn. So you'll explain that first. And then they'll have a few words that are repeat words that they've already learned in a previous level. And then they start in with the list. So how I used it was as soon as they got 3 words wrong total, I would stop. Even if it's the first 3 words, I would just stop because they don't need that much stress, right? So you go to where you are in the book. So say you're Ben, and this is my kid here, this is my kid here. I'd have like 5 of them in here. And then there'd be an arrow to what word they're actually on, because they could be on this page for quite a while. And then I just read them 19th, okay? And then they get that right. And I would say the word 19th, and you're supposed to put it in a sentence. This is the 19th day of the month, 19th. And they would write 19th down, and they would relay it back to you, N-I-N-E, blah, 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 right? If they got it correct, you just move on to the next one. If they got it wrong, then they would write it. You'd tell them how to correctly write it, and they'd write it in the column next to it. So they would write the word here. If they got it right, they'd just move on. He got this one wrong, so then he wrote it right here on the side. And these words become the ones that they practice on this 10-step process. Okay, so in the 10-step process, this is how it works. He's written all these words down. He's got these ones wrong. So then he brings these words over here after we stop, and he writes the word down, passenger. He says it. He looks at it. He says it and spells it to himself. Then he closes his eyes and spells it to himself. Then he checks it, traces it in the air or on the desk, letter by letter, checks it again, writes it again, checks it against the first one. And this is a process they've done the research on, that it works, that it gets it into their heads. They're being kinesthetic, they're saying it out loud, they're saying it with their eyes. And so this is how they learn those words. So I'd have them write it here, I have them practice it here. And then when he came to another day and he was turning the page, I would then, seeing as how he couldn't see these words, then have him tested on the words he got wrong on this page. And I would just jot them down somewhere, and I'd test him on these words that he got wrong. So that's how we use this book, or the composition book you could just use too. Built into the program is delayed recall tests and review tests. And the way they work is you've done a bunch of groups and they've learned them. Then you have a delayed recall test, and it's just going through 1 or 2 from each of the, like, say, past 10 or 15 groups. If they get one wrong, you're supposed to go back to that group number that's written on the side and retest that list. Or I would go through every third one and test. Then, when you've done that with this whole list, you then do delayed recall test B, form B. If they pass that, then you move on. If they get a whole of delayed recall test A right, you can skip this B. Then they will have a review test, and they will have end of level tests. And if you want, there are in the back of this book actual test sheets, like end of level test sheets. There is delayed recall test sheets, things like that in the back. But your kids can just use paper as long as they have a line down the middle. But the 10-step process really is worth actually photocopying or printing out from your CD, depending on what version you have, in order for them to be really learning those words. So that's how I used it day by day. There is a lot more information in the back of the book. If you have older kids, if you want to use games, you want to integrate it and reinforce it. There's just a ton in the back here if you want to do more, right? For me, I had 5 kids. I just wanted to do spelling words with them. And we didn't use a whole lot of the back stuff, and they didn't want to do games with spelling words. Sorry, but we just didn't. So it really, really helped me to know that the kids are learning on a spiral basis because they review the words, and then I would also retest the words they got wrong. And you start in, say, grade, I would say 3rd grade, about age 8, age 9, and then you'd usually finish by, say, 8th or 9th grade, because they have way more important stuff to do in high school. And that is Spelling Power. That is how I used it. I used it with all my 5 kids. This really helped my kids to progress in their spelling, and it wasn't painful to use, and it was really useful. So I will link it below in the description. I congratulate you on homeschooling your kids. If you like this, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more like this. And you guys have a blessed day.